desperately trying to anticipate their next unpredictable mood swing. Narcissistic bosses exude a predatory kind of charisma at first, drawing people in with grand visions or magnetic confidence, but that early charm quickly morphs into a relentless need for flattery, an inability to tolerate criticism of any kind, even when couched as helpful feedback, and a chilling lack of empathy that leaves you and your workmates feeling like disposable props in the ongoing spectacle of their self-importance, where your feelings and needs are not just invisible but irrelevant. The warning signs are everywhere, though it can take months or even years for their full pattern to emerge. The constant self-promotion, paired with suspicion or sabotage of others' achievements, the sweeping promises that are often broken without explanation, or blamed on the incompetence of others, the ever-shifting goalposts, causing you to work around the clock to satisfy shifting and impossible standards, the pathological need to be seen as right, even when obviously wrong, the inability to admit faults or apologize with sincerity, and the readiness to rewrite reality if it means protecting their fragile ego, even if that means lying outright or rewriting workplace history in front of everyone. There is also the insidious psychological warfare. One day, you're the favorite, singled out for praise, and given responsibilities that make you feel special, indispensable. But the next, you are cast out, ignored, or emotionally punished for some imaginary slight, or simply for failing to perform psychic labor. You may notice their selective amnesia about policies and promises, their tendency to triangulate and set employees against each other, their voracious need to eavesdrop, monitor, or demand detailed reports, not out of oversight, but so every scrap of information is ammunition they can use. 7. Spend immense energy second-guessing yourself, agonizing over emails, rehearsing conversations in your mind, constantly feeling you are one wrong word away from provoking their wrath. This is not ordinary stress. It sinks into your bones, slowly sapping your enthusiasm, eroding your self-esteem, and making you doubt your very sanity. Because narcissistic bosses are master manipulators, experts at gaslighting, making you doubt what you saw, heard, or experienced, warping your memories until you find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, or trying to fix problems that don't exist except in their paranoid imagination. They will often seek out scapegoats, using every formal HR process and informal rumor mill to smear those who dare question their authority, or worse, outperform them. They might even co-opt your work, publish your ideas as theirs, and take visible pleasure in watching you squirm as your contributions are erased, your reputation tarnished, your courage extinguished. The most brutal truth is that most organizations, whether through ignorance, willful blindness, or complicity, allow this kind of behavior to flourish because narcissists are often brilliant at managing up, dazzling their own supervisors or the board with carefully staged charisma while their abuses rain down on those below. If you try to speak up, you may be gently discouraged or subtly threatened to get with the program, and if you do escalate, you may face retaliation ranging from subtleties sidelining to open hostility, as these bosses are hypersensitive to even the mildest perceived threat to their control. Yet the cost of staying silent is enormous. A culture of fear, climbing turnover rates as talent flees or burns out, and for those who remain, a slow, agonizing erosion of morale, innovation, and hope. You'll hear the rationalizations from colleagues, HR, or even yourself. Maybe they're just passionate. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe the pressure is getting to all of us. But deep down, the pain is unmistakable. The daily walking on eggshells, the isolation as team bonds break under the stress, the way your weekends are spent recovering from psychological bruises or working frantically to fix things that are never your fault in the first place. Psychologically, if you look at the clinical markers of narcissistic personality disorder, you'll see box after box checked. Grandiosity, an insatiable need for admiration, lack of empathy, exploitative relationships, arrogance, envy, hypersensitivity to criticism, chronic sense of entitlement, manipulativeness, and perhaps most disturbing of all, a seeming inability to recognize or care about the harm they cause. These are not merely quirks or flaws, but deep-seated traits that make the narcissistic boss an existential threat to any healthy workplace. And the heartbreak is that all judgment, right, wrong, fair, unfair, becomes blurred by the emotional scars and confusion they leave behind. You may find yourself blaming yourself, justifying their behavior, or losing your faith in all management structures, when the reality is that what you are experiencing is a deeply dysfunctional pattern that is extremely well documented by organizational psychologists and whistleblowers alike. The unbiased truth is that surviving under a narcissistic boss means either sacrificing your own integrity and mental health to avoid retaliation, attempting to build coalitions to expose the abuse with enormous risk and uncertain outcomes, or, most often, making the difficult decision to escape entirely for the sake of your well-being. Yet, it's important as well to recognize how easy it is, in a toxic environment, to misinterpret legitimate authority or firm leadership as narcissism, and how sometimes our own insecurities or misunderstandings can color our perception. A real non-narcissistic leader can sometimes be demanding or distant without being pathologically self-absorbed, or risk losing it all in an instant, because the moment you assert even the mildest independence or question their intentions, the pedestal tips, and you are plunged into confusion and distress, hit with subtle put-downs, stone-cold silences, or sudden outbursts that seem irrational and leave you scrambling to mend the peace. And here is where the next tactic slides in: gaslighting, that heart-crushing mind game designed to make you doubt your own memory, sanity, and even your ability to feel pain. That never happened. You're too sensitive. Everyone agrees with me. You're overreacting. All endless refrains, replayed until eventually the evidence of your own eyes and heart becomes too shaky to trust, and you find yourself apologizing for things you never did, defending decisions you never made, or worse, doubting whether your reality has ever been real. This is not some rare or accidental cruelty, but a repeated strategy, finely tuned to tighten their grip on your mind. For the narcissist depends on your self-doubt to retain the upper hand, never allowing you to grow secure enough to confront or challenge them. But spotting manipulation requires noticing the thousand small cuts as much as the obvious betrayals. The way they undermine your joy. You only got that job because of luck. Isolate you from friends with gossip and lies. Your parents hate me. I'm the only one who cares about you. Or inspire toxic loyalty. No one loves you like I do, but you have to prove you deserve it. So that even as your world shrinks, you cannot help but cling harder to the very person causing you pain, because they've made leaving seem impossible or even dangerous, filling you with fear of abandonment, social ruin, or emotional collapse. The devastating reality comes when you realize how projection, their favorite trick, turns every accusation on its head. When you confront their betrayal, suddenly you are accused of infidelity or dishonesty. When you request compassion, you're told you're selfish or unfeeling, and conversations spiral until you are defending yourself against allegations so bizarre and false that your protest itself becomes further proof in their eyes that you are unstable, deceitful, or unworthy of trust. An excruciating merry-go-round with no escape, designed not to discover truth, but to exhaust you into compliance, silence, or despair. And it gets still worse, because when manipulation faces exposure, some narcissists escalate to triangulation, drawing in friends, colleagues, or family to take their side, spinning stories behind your back until you feel surrounded, doubted, or publicly shamed. A reality where your pain is minimized, your objections dismissed, and even your sanity called into question by people who only ever saw the narcissist's public face.